Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, from trauma to triumph, meet the expert and survivor who focuses on culture and community. Also ahead on this Memorial Day weekend, Queens Rising 2026. The borough president talks about the months-long celebration of cultural diversity. Mexodus, the musical, featuring a fusion of hip-hop and bolero. It tells the little-known story of the Underground Railroad's path south to Mexico. Plus, the undisputed Soca king, Machel Montano, on his new documentary, Like a Boss. That's all ahead on Here and Now. May marks Mental Health Awareness Month. Our next guest is using her own personal story of trauma and resilience to help others. She translates her real-life experiences into tools for healing emotional scars. Joining us this afternoon is author, social and behavioral specialist, and founder of Gold Mind Thoughts, Reverend Dr. Sania Barnes. What a pleasure it is to meet you.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
Your story is pretty incredible. So I'm going to start back in 2017 because that kind of, if I understand correctly, got you on the journey towards doing this work. I think you lost your nephew.
Correct.
Talk to me a little bit about that and how it impacted you.
Sure. So in 2017, like you said, I lost my only nephew to gun violence, and that shift me to the core. Think about someone who is constantly pouring into their community, continuously doing all that you can to give more love to the community, and then getting the news that someone that close to you was murdered. It was a sense to where I had to make sense of life all over again. And in order to do so, I had to understand what my mindset was going through and what it would be like. And that led me into going back to school to understand how we process trauma and how do you begin to move forward when everything in your body is telling you to stay stuck.
Yeah, because you don't want to deal with anything.
Exactly.
So you started that work, which honestly says a whole lot about who you are, quite frankly. And I hate to say it because we hear it all the time about how strong you are too, because you elected to deal with that trauma by trying to understand it. And then you got a medical diagnosis in 2021 that further shifted you towards this kind of work. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. Oh, please understand, right? This did not happen overnight.
No.
It did not happen in a vacuum. I finally got to the point where I thought, like, okay, I'm getting some headway. I feel like I can breathe again. And then I got to the doctor's office, and the doctor told me that I was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, which means my lungs were hardening, and there is no reversal for it. So it was a terminal diagnosis, but it was also a death sentence, because when he told me what it was, he explained it to me in a sense of my lungs look like an 80-year-old man who had been smoking 5 packs of cigarettes every day. And I had never smoked a day in my life. But then he also said that I would need a double lung transplant. And in that moment, it hit me, because I realized in order for me to be able to live, someone else had to die. And being able to process that took so much. You can only imagine the trauma that I felt in that moment, but then also the humility, because I had to realize that my life would forever be changed.
And it was forever changed. And perhaps not in the way that a lot of people will think. You certainly, you did this learning, you did this extra education, you went through this to help yourself. But what I find so incredible is that you turned your gaze outward. Talk to me about how you made the decision to take the trauma, the pain, the confusion that you were feeling at these various points and try to figure out how you could use your way of dealing with it to help other people going through similar situations.
It happened to me almost as if an out-of-body experience. I can remember the moment I died in my mom's kitchen. When they finally got me back, I can hear my mom saying, just come back to me, just come back to me. Then hearing the EMS say, we got a pulse. They picked me up, got me to the hospital, I got put on a ventilator, and the doctors told my family, call everyone, we don't think she's gonna make it through the night. And in the midst of that time, I can see the people walking in and out of the room. Now, I'm on a ventilator at this time. I can see the people walking in and out of the room, but what mostly stuck to me was my son was 21 at that time, and he looked at me, and it was almost like he saw something that I couldn't feel. And he said, you can't leave. We have work to do. And that moment, I knew I had to fight. Even though my body was giving up on me, I knew that I had to fight. And so I did what I could do best. I turned it over to God, and I'm here now, still fighting, using my story as power and as a way to encourage others to not give up, even when everything in you is fighting and telling you to give up.
Yeah.
My story allows others to realize there's tools that I've lived through that you can now utilize to help you move forward as well.
Yeah, and trauma comes in different forms. I think we all instinctively know that. But sometimes I guess it's in the form of grief. It's in the form of maybe not losing a loved one, but losing someone else. Maybe it's in the form of an addiction and being lost and feel like you don't have the power anymore. So how do you approach, do people come up to you for help? How does that work?
So it happens both ways. Sometimes people just find me. They come up to me and they're like, I heard your story on whether it's on social media, whether it's they heard me speaking at an event, and they know someone who's going through something similar, and they would like for me to talk to them or to work with them, and then the connection is made there. But another thing is that mental illness, grief, trauma comes in so many shapes and forms, and it doesn't just happen in a month. We have the awareness months, we have so many awareness months, but this is something that I'm living day in and day out. This is something that I wear on my sleeve. This is something that I can connect with individuals, not because of research, not just because of textbook, but because of lived experience. And it allows me to connect with people on a different level, because now I'm telling you, as someone who has walked in similar shoes, that brighter days can come as long as you are willing to put one foot in front of the other. And it's not always a pretty picture, but it's definitely something that you can get to.
Yeah, and what we love so much about your story is, yes, you are a walking testament to what you've been through. So when you talk to people, they know you know what you're talking about. It didn't come from a textbook.
Right.
However, you do have a doctorate in theology and human behavior. So you not only feel what you're talking about, you know, as my mother would say, you got book sense too. She'd always say that to me. What is the advice that you would give folks, somebody right now dealing with, I call it trauma, but as you said, it could be coming from any direction in their life, because sometimes the getting started is the hardest part.
Honestly, I would definitely say what I say to my clients often, especially I'm thinking of one client in particular who was navigating through the loss of her child. She was navigating through having to immediately go back to work, and she was having difficulty sleeping, and that was because she said that, in her words, every time she falls asleep it feels like she's just falling and she can't, like she's not getting the rest. And I had to explain to her that it is okay to quiet the noise. And so my advice would be to quiet the noise, and what that looks like in action is sometimes shutting your mind off from when we typically go to sleep with the TV on. So those things are playing in our mind. Then we're checking off all the things we have to do tomorrow. One strategy I would give is to listen to ocean sounds, because the tone is calming. There's no words to it. It's just a different vibration of ease that lets your mind automatically shut off. versus when you're listening to the news or you're listening to a TV show. Those are voices, and your mind is trying to connect to the voice, and then that's why you feel like you can't sleep.
Yeah,
so
it's too much.
It's too much going on.
You almost need that blank slate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So quieting the noise allows you to give yourself permission to then fall asleep. Because whatever it is going to be there tomorrow when you wake up, and you can pick it up then.
So you can get back to it then. I want to mention 2 books that you've written before I let you go, because the producer is telling me we're running out of time. Loving Yourself Through the Trauma, it's a workbook, and The Recondition, a guide to loving yourself through the trauma. So they work together.
Yes.
And your website, SaniaBarnes.com.
Correct.
We can find out all things about you, where they might be able to hear you speak, and other important information. Thank you so much for sitting down with us this afternoon. You are truly a testament to everything you are talking to us about. We appreciate your being here, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll be right back. It is the most diverse of New York City's 5 boroughs, and for the 5th year in a row, Queens Rising 2026 will showcase all that Queens has to offer. The month-long borough-wide festival is a celebration of cultural diversity featuring visual arts, live performances, and plenty of community events. And here to tell us more is Queens Borough President Donovan Richards Jr. So nice to see you again.
So good to see you again.
Yeah, and at least we get to do what you love to do, and that is brag about Queens.
Absolutely.
So Queens Rising, you started this 5 years ago. What is it that you want people to know about this event?
Well, let me start with all the stuff going on in this country right now, where we see diversity being challenged, equity and inclusion. And one of the things we like to do is through this initiative is to really celebrate the diversity of our borough. 190 countries, 360 languages and dialects. I can tell you can get a taste of the world without ever leaving Queens. And this is one way that we really showcase our borough's diversity.
And one of the great things about this, you know, I said 4 weeks, which actually he is sneaking and putting in extra weeks in there, is that much of what's happening is free to the public.
Oh, free, unlike what we see FIFA doing. But we will showcase the USTA Tennis Center will also be available to local residents to attend at basically $0 to showcase and watch all of the World Cup games. And it's really going to be a great time to really bring thousands of people together, once again, to showcase that diversity. And during a time when the economy is out of sync, when everything's expensive. What is it, like $98 to travel to the World Cup game? To take the train. In Queens County, you'll be able to get around for free.
All right. You got your little plug in there. So talk to me about the different kinds of events that we're going to be seeing during this month-long festival.
Well, starting with Queens College, we'll be showcasing Juneteenth, which is going to be a huge event. And as the first black man to be borough president, is really a proud moment, especially, like I said, where we're seeing these challenges around the economy, where we're seeing the federal government challenge who we are as a people. To showcase that is going to be great. And then on July 17th, even though I'm sneaking out of June a little bit, we're gonna showcase Pete Rock, and we're gonna have a great show at Flushing Meadows Corona Park. And we're going to have just a great time in bringing people together. Last year we had The Roots, and this year we can't wait to really launch our big festival.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you do well with this is that there's a little bit of something for everybody. Like, I know that Queens Night Market is a huge hit with folks.
Oh. It's a hit. And by the way, if you want to get a taste of the world, the New York Times has talked about the Queens Night Market being one of the top 100 places to eat in the country. But also, we're going to showcase FIFA games there this year as well. So we're going to do a large combination of the different cultural events, festivals, music, but really bringing the community together during a time like this is important.
Yeah, June is a big month, so I know that the Pride celebrations fall within this window too.
Yes. Oh, Pride is huge in Jackson Heights, and you got to remember, you know, the first place in this city where basically Pride kicked off in a march was Jackson Heights, right? And this is one of the best events I think I've ever attended, being borough president, where you get thousands of people out there just fellowshipping, celebrating the diversity, and you can be who the heck you want and love who the heck you want on the parade route in Jackson Heights.
And I know that this is not something that the borough does alone, that this is really a collaboration of quite a few organizations in the borough. Talk to me a little bit about who some of those partners are.
Well, Queens College being like our biggest partner. We have LIJ, the hospital. We have Queens Theater, Queens Museum. So all of our cultural institutions really coming together to showcase the talent that we have in the borough and to celebrate that diversity that we're so proud of.
And how are you able to make all this happen? Because you're making sure that most of it is absolutely free to your constituents. Do you get help? Do you raise money? How does this happen?
This is a labor of love, and much credit goes to Queens College, but obviously as the borough president who just got $115 million from the mayor today, I'm smiling in all ears today because we're able to use a lot of those resources to ensure we can give back to our local communities, to also grow our institutions, right? The Queens Museum, we're going to build the first children's museum at. We're expanding a lot of our cultural theaters. We're expanding in Queens College, doing their auditorium over. So really using the essence of the budget to really make sure that we're putting money back in people's pockets.
And you touched on Juneteenth. That's going to be a pretty big celebration, right?
Oh, it's going to be huge because we, during this period where we see the Trump administration in particular targeting many of our institutions and cultural institutions, and we need to combat that and really focus in on who we are, celebrate that. You know, like I said, I'm the first black man to be borough president. Helen Marshall was the first black woman. We want to make sure that we're showcasing the excellence of our black community for Juneteenth.
And really, I guess, who we are as a community.
Exactly.
Whether you're black, white, purple, green, yellow, not to put too fine a point on it, that we're kind of all in the same boat. Diversity,
equity, and inclusion is being challenged, Sandra, and we have to make sure that we're standing up, and we are doing that as a state and as a city, as someone co-chairing the redevelopment of JFK Airport as well. I can tell you that we've been sued partially because we are making sure that contracts are going to minorities. And we're going to continue to focus in on these things and not just celebrate culturally, but to make sure that our economy works for everybody in Queens County.
Two quick things I want to get to before I let you go. The cultural pass. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so you're going to go online. And certainly go on. And once again, these are all free events. So you'll go online to queensrising.nyc and really take advantage of all of the cultural passes that are happening. And it's really, like I said, a great opportunity to really ensure that everybody has access. You know, our cultural institutions are democratic institutions. We want to make sure that they are free and that people can literally get an experience.
So do you need to go to the website? The website, queensrising.nyc.
Yep.
And the cultural pass. What does it allow you to do?
It allows you to gain entrance to our institutions. And the best thing about many of our institutions is that they are free and they're affordable. So whether it's MoMA PS1, whether it's the Queens Theater, whether it's the Queens Museum, or JCal in Jamaica, all of these institutions really give you a great opportunity to have different experiences.
Yeah, and find out what is available to you in your community. Because a lot of times people don't know.
You don't have to go to Manhattan. You know, there are so many institutions in Queens, and we need to really make sure that we're getting the word out.
And one last thing, the Governor's Ball, which is not necessarily a free event, but it is very important.
Oh, I mean, A$AP Rocky is headlining this year. It's a 3-day festival, and very proud because we bring over 40 to 50,000 people to Governor's Ball every year. We actually worked extremely hard with the past administration to move it into Flushing Meadows Corona Park. So from June 5th to the 7th, come out, spend your money in Queens, and have a great time and boost our economy and learn our flavors.
And queensrising.nyc, you can find out all the information about these events, the dates, the times, and get that cultural pass. Donovan Richards, Queensborough President, thank you so much.
Always great to see you.
Nice to sit down with you, especially when we're talking about good news, right?
Good news. We need a lot of that these days.
Thank you. We'll be right back. We all know the story of the Underground Railroad. It's the network that helped fugitive slaves escape, mostly running from the South into northern states. But a new musical reveals there was another path that ran south by crossing the Rio Grande into Mexico. Mexodus tells that real-life story set to a fusion of hip-hop and bolero. Take a listen.
We bleed the same blood of this country, and stories we'll share with you. Over time left out the books, but all it took was deep diving into a sad imagination, a true examination of a nation's early trouble. Cause from the wrecking rubble, we came out the other side, sippity side. When you're living in this country, it's do or die. And we can tell you how. Yeah, but let's break it down.
Take those shackles off my hands, oh Lord.
Joining us today, the creative geniuses behind this production, playwrights and actors, Brian Quijada and Nigel D. Robinson. I'm so excited to meet both of you.
Oh, we're excited to be here.
Yes.
Just a wonderful piece of work.
Thank you.
And my first question is, where do you hear about this story? How do you know about it? Brian.
Yeah, we landed on, we found this article posted on history.com, the untold story of the Underground Railroad that led south to Mexico. And it's kind of mind-blowing when you read that, because I think the common, what happened to us was that we were like, how did we never learn about this? And then immediately followed by, of course, that Mexico abolished slavery 30 years before the United States did, and so Mexico gave citizenship to runaway slaves. It was amazing.
And Brian, why was it a story, Brian, I'm sorry, you're Brian, you're Nigel.
Yes.
Nigel, why was it a story that it was important for you to share and to bring to audiences this way?
In the same way that we're like, of course, we didn't learn about this. I think, of course, we didn't learn about this. Of course, we weren't taught this. And I think education is really important to try and help people change. Like we perish for our lack of knowledge. And then doing it this way, Brian and I, we call ourselves little misfits of the American theater. Like we never really fit into the mold that New York City and subsequent cities have created. So we had to make our own thing. And our common interest, we have a lot of common interests, but like musically, that thing in the middle is hip hop. Like I've been rapping since I was like 9 years old. I did not pay attention in class. So we met and we were like, okay, it's a hip hop show, but then I bring in, like I grew up on Stevie Wonder and Earth, Wind and Fire and Luther and a lot of other folks like that. And then Brian grew up on boleros and a lot of Mexican music and things. And we mashed all those things together with the glue of hip hop to tell this story.
Was it surprising to either of you that the mashing together tasted real good?
I was shocked.
I mean, you know what's amazing about hip hop is that the tradition of hip hop is to sample old disco and funk, and so it actually aligned perfectly that we would take samplings of our influences and make something contemporary.
So I'm going to back up for a second. If you'll do me the courtesy of explaining to the audience the story. We've said the story behind the story, what inspired it, but the story of those characters in this show.
Oh yeah. Well, we come out on stage and we're like, hi, we're Brian, we're Nigel, and we've learned this information that you probably haven't heard about, and we're going to tell you a story about it. And then we go into this story of this man named Henry, who we find on a plantation talking about the monotony of every day. And then he goes through an incident that you have to come see the show to find out about. And it's either kill or be killed, run away. So he chooses to commit this act and he has a runaway, and he finds that there's a folktale about crossing the Rio Grande on a bale of cotton. Via weight in the water, he crosses the Rio Grande in a storm and washes up on the shores of Mexico and is greeted by
this character, Carlos, who is a veteran of the Mexican-American War and had to abandon his men and was displaced and rescues him. And what's amazing, and the history shows us, is that Mexicans took in these runaway slaves and gave them citizenship out of spite of the United States for taking their land. And so they gave them citizenship as kind of a middle finger to the United States.
Yeah. What made you two feel like, or maybe what makes this fusion of hip hop and bolero so effective in telling this story and I guess drawing in audiences?
I mean, what's amazing is that when our communities come, both the Black and Latino communities, they equally feel proud. I mean, we feel proud to tell this story, and so it's kind of remarkable that I speak like a third of my lines in Spanish.
Yeah.
It's kind of remarkable that both of our communities can come and equally feel proud to be themselves.
And heard
Yeah.
and be learning something
And
new.
hear their music and hear our music collectively in a single space. It's remarkable. It's such a joy.
And I hate, you hate to compare things, but the thing that popped into mind, and I know, I'm looking at your face, Nigel. I already know what you're thinking. But it is one of the reasons why I think it's so effective and so popular, Hamilton.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That storytelling, so you're telling an old, it's a forever story, really, but an old story, but you are setting it to, music and that it is contemporary.
Right.
So you feel an instant connection. I don't know, does it make the information go down easier or just make you feel instantly connected than perhaps you otherwise would be?
I have a theory about theater, and that juxtaposition always works. I watched Tu Wong Fu a couple years ago for the first time, and I was like, these really fabulous New York drag queens descend upon this podunk town in the middle of Middle America, and I'm like, that is so interesting. It's polarizing, it's interesting, and then a story comes out of, like it writes itself.
Yeah.
So I think when you set history to something so contemporary, which you can trace back to like a Tribe Called Quest rapping over like jazz loops. These are archaic jazz loops from the 40s, and now these young 19-year-old boys in New York talking about everyday life, but to this other music. And for some reason, it makes it digestible. But I love Lynn.
Yeah.
When Lynn came to the show, I had a small panic attack during the day.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, we should say.
But so we got to meet him, and he liked it, and that was crazy. But he did say something really important like 10 years ago when Hamilton was really, really kicking off, and he said, hip hop is the language of revolution. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So every subsequent hip hop theater piece, I owe that, at least, what he said. I'm like, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's something fiery and fast and poetic and energizing and rebellious about hip hop.
Know that the show is available in Audible, on
Yeah.
right? Which really will put the music front and center, right?
Yes.
In a way that did you think about that ahead of time?
Well, that was kind of when Audible approached us about doing the stage version at their theater. We got incredibly excited because this piece started as a concept album. And so we were like, we'll get to return to the medium of releasing an album with them. And it dropped. It's available on Audible. It was such a joy for us to make.
Yeah.
And what are you hoping that people leave the theater with? What are you hoping they take away from Mexodus?
Oh, man. If you take a look at, I think there's universality and specificity. So we're telling a very specific story about two specific groups of people at a specific time. But if you branch out, you can see how all these things connect. So when you look outside and you see other struggles, like there's no way that you can look at Mexodus and feel emotional about it and then go out of your front door and see land theft and see, see these things that are happening, even in this city. So I hope that people leave the theater feeling whatever they're feeling and take that out into their communities and realize that we are two people who, with a room full of instruments and buttons, make this orchestra level of sound with just two of us. And like, what can you do at a library? What can you do at a news station? What can you do at your job? What can you do in a warehouse with just two people?
Yeah. Mexodus, it's at the Darrell Roth Theater, 101 East 15th Street in New York. And it is running through June 17th?
June 14th.
June 14th now. June 14th. I'll send you to mexodusmusical.com for tickets, availability, and audible.com. You can find it there as well.
Yes.
Thank you both for
Thank
being
you.
with
Thank
us
you
this
so much.
afternoon. What congratulations on
Thank
just
you.
an
Thank
you so
absolutely
much.
brilliant piece of work.
Thank you so
I cannot
much.
wait to see the full show.
We can't wait to have you.
Yes. You will be able to come back anytime with your next project.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. He was perhaps one of the most influential performers on Broadway. 3-time Tony Award winner, actor, singer, dancer, choreographer, the late Henton Battle. Some of his most notable roles included The Wiz, Miss Saigon, and Sophisticated Ladies. Well, now the nonprofit Black Broadway Men is paying tribute to his legacy by presenting the Henton Battle Day of Dance. Here to tell us more about this free event, actor, producer, and the founder of Black Broadway Men, Anthony Wayne. It's, as always, it is nice to see you again.
It's great to be here again, always.
So explain this day to me. It's coming up, what is it, May 30th, right? So next week.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that you guys are doing?
So it's a day to celebrate the life of Henton Battle. He was, as you mentioned, award-winning performer, and he passed away maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
2024.
That's right. And so myself, Stephanie Pope Lofgren, and T. Oliver Reed, he's with Black Theater Coalition, we had conversations about what we could do to celebrate his life. And so we came together and we began to have conversations and just build a day of dance. And it's a day of dance, so we call it the Henton Battle Day of Dance. It's ballet, tap, jazz, Horton, and Fosse. And it's all type of dance for people to come for free and just to enjoy the day. Each class is an hour and a half, and we have incredible teachers and instructors like Freddie Moore from the Alvin Ailey School.
And why this particular kind of day? I guess I kind of know the answer, because he was just really an amazing choreographer and dancer. So in a way, it's really a fitting tribute, but it also speaks to what it is that your organization wants to do in terms of supporting Black men in the theater.
Yeah. Black Broadway Men was created in 2020 to celebrate, educate, and motivate Black men of the Broadway and theater community by creating unity with each other, finding strength through educational opportunities, and embracing the legacy of those that have come before us, because we are the legacy for those to come after us. So our pillars are unity, strength, and legacy. And we really wanted to build and open up the world so that we can have community for Black men in theater who are in a small city who believe that they don't have community. And so to let them know that we're here, because even when they see people like Josh Henry or, Henton Battle or anybody who was in the past or anybody who's in the present, or they're the ones that they're going to be in the future. So that's really exciting.
And I love the idea of it too, because I think that we all have a sense that we are just all competing with each other. So it's just dog eat dog all the time. And that really isn't the case.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times where we, as young people who are in theater, we may not have a father figure in the home, or we may not have a big brother to help and support us and to love us, or we may be pushed around as kids in school. So a lot of times we feel like other Black men or other men of color do not support us. And so when you go to your theater company, you feel free. But then you come to New York and you try to communicate with other men and you feel like you don't have the language. And so the organization is there to build a space for us to have unity and have events. We have a playwriting initiative. We do, mentorship programs, and we do the Day of Dance and things to come.
Yeah, and just explain to audiences, look, I listed his credentials. He was everything, right? What makes him so special, such an anomaly in the world of theater, and why his legacy deserves to be celebrated?
Well, he's, as you mentioned, did multiple Broadway shows, but he also won Tony Awards, but he didn't just win it for dancing, he won it for singing. And so he went over to Japan and did work over there. He's done stuff nationally. So I think just remembering his life, remembering the fact that he was persevering and wanted to be more than just seen as a dancer, because he was specifically in Sophisticated Ladies, doing incredible work with Gregory Hines and just beautiful people who are no longer with us. And so we just wanted to make sure that we uplifted his life and his legacy, and all of the people who are the teachers, who are instructors on the day, they all have been touched and inspired by his life, and they're all men of color, so Black men. So I'm excited to share ballet, jazz, tap, Horton, and Fosse with them. And each person who comes, they also are able to get a scholarship in certain ways, because we have the Fosse, the Verdon Fosse legacy that are coming to watch. We have people from BDC, we have people from STEPS who come and just watch and support. So even though they're there for free, people may end up getting a scholarship for whatever, whatever they want to do.
Yeah, it's a full service day. And look, before I let you go, we can't let you go without you telling us about your upcoming performances in La Cage aux Faux, as you told me, at City Center.
Yes. So La Cage aux Faux is happening June 17th through June 28th, and I'm standby for Billy Porter and Wayne Brady.
Yeah, that's a pretty big, that's a big call.
Yeah, standby means that I'm actually going to be both of them, Alban and George and Zaza, if one of them are not on. So it's a big job, but I'm excited about it. So
continuing the legacy of Mr. Hinton Battle.
Yes, that's correct.
So again, we're going to send folks to blackbroadwaymen.org. That is your website. So you talk a little bit about why the organization is important for Black men on Broadway, and there's a lot of you guys.
Yeah.
And the location of the Hinton Battle Day of Dance 2026 is Open Jars Studios, which is at 1601 Broadway. And that information is on the website, right?
Yes, that's correct. And they can also go to dayofdanceny.com.
Okay.
So that's easier too. If you want to, Instagram is Day of Dance and Day of Dance NY and dayofdanceny.com. So,
all right. I think it's a fantastic idea, remembering Hinton Battle, but also letting all these other young men of color have the opportunity to walk in his footsteps. Maybe I should say dance in his footsteps.
Yeah, and the day is free, so anybody can come. It's open to all ages, races, creeds, colors. Anybody who wants to come just to have fun and uplift the life of Hinton Battle.
All right. Anthony Wayne, it is always great to see you. I'm starting to think of you as almost my little brother.
I'm here for it.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
We will be right back. As we count down to National Caribbean American Heritage Month, our next guest, the undisputed king of Soca, Machel Montano, has been one of the most influential voices in Caribbean music for more than 4 decades. The documentary Like a Boss, Journey of a Soca King delivers an intimate look into the life and legacy of an artist often called the Michael Jackson of the Caribbean.
The stand was just crumbling.
Machel Montano found guilty today.
I broke down, almost thinking that I'll do harm to myself.
Listen, my goose, who's from Trinidad, says that you are the biggest thing going in Soca.
When you're on top, they're gonna come for you. Yeah, Commander, please tell the drum major to have the troops in place and ready for parade. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go out like a boss. From this point on, it's gonna be different, but let me just do it like a boss this year, and really bring all the excitement.
Like a boss. When that drop, everything else gonna shut down.
Joining us today, Trinidadian singer, songwriter, and producer, Machel Montano. So nice to meet you.
Such a pleasure to be here.
Folks have been in the hallway waiting for you to arrive. My understanding is you are a very big deal.
Of all my Caribbean people, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
You have been doing this since you were 7?
I started at 7 years old in 1982, and by 1984 I was in Madison Square Garden opening for the Mighty Sparrow and Lord Kitchener, and I was just immediately pushed into touring to Paris and London, and so I started really young, and it's a strange career that I just started by saying, okay.
But you love it.
I mean, I think it was my purpose at the time. I mean, I was here, somebody who loved music, I love singing, I love entertaining, but I think it loved me. They saw a little kid acting like a big man, but I had a lot of great, interesting songs, social commentary, things like being too young to soca, singing on the education ministers and telling them to, look out for the children. So it was just an interesting start. And eventually I became somebody who pioneered making soca music youthful, trendy, and you know, opening that culture across the Caribbean.
Yeah, I love to say that you were a little kid trying to act like a big man. Well, you're a big man now. Okay, I'm gonna
Trying to
read
be a
some of
little
your
kid.
yeah. Well, aren't we all, right? 2008, you were awarded the Bob Marley Award, Entertainer of the Year at the
Yes.
Apollo. January 2010, first soca artist to headline at the Jamaica Jazz and Blues Festival. 2018, you got an honorary doctorate in the arts from the University of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And now we get a chance to look at this unbelievable journey of yours. The documentary, Like a Boss, Journey of a Soca King. What made you decide that it was time to share your story with folks?
Well, first of all, 2015 was a very significant year for me. I go through these phases of transformation. After you're doing it so long, I've been known for recreating myself. In 2015, I said, you know, let's do cooperation over competition. So there was nothing else for me to win. And I wanted to cooperate with the young people and teach them things. I also had new management coming in from Toronto, and I wanted them to help me recreate who I was and take this music to the corners of the globe.
Yeah.
So we started the cameras rolling, and we went on to win a huge road march competition that year, which is the most popular song in the carnival. And then that happened in 2016 and 2018 and 2019. So we just kept the cameras rolling. And I felt like what was converging was the explosion of a new Caribbean sound. After reggaeton, after reggae comes soca. You know, we had the Afro beats, but also for me, I reached a very specific milestone this year. I won 12 road march titles, which is the most of all time.
Explain to me, because of my ignorance.
So the road march is the biggest song for the carnival every year since 1930.
All right.
The person who won the most was the Lord Kitchener, and he had held that record for 50 years. And I broke it this year, finally.
Congratulations.
So thank you so much. But I felt like, you know, it was important for me to tell all these young people coming up, just when I think soca music is about to go global, give them that blueprint. Show them what a longevity career is about, you know, but show them what evolution is about, transformation, because I've went through so many phases. And I think, you know, my story is going to really help inspire a lot of young people to take it even further.
It's going to resonate. So what I would argue when you talk about helping soca music go global, first of all, you've done that.
Yes.
You have taken it global.
Yes.
What is it about the music that's so captivating? Soca is like a combination of calypso and like...
It's the baby of calypso.
What, the baby, okay.
Calypso was social commentary. It was mainly, you know, done by the elders, the big calypsonians, and, you know, those in top hats and three-piece suits. When I came in, I was looking for my peers, and they were listening to, you know, pop music, dancehall, and R&B and hip hop, and I had to make soca interesting for them.
Yeah.
Soca music was created by a calypsonian who became spiritual, and he wanted to put his soul back into calypso. He used the Africanism of the calypso beat, and he blended it with East Indian music. So it's basically a unifying music made to make you dance. And I think every time it comes on, there's a level of unity that it fosters. You know, now we have, I call it the sound of the Caribbean. It's no longer the soul of calypso, it's the sound of the Caribbean, because there's a version of soca in every Caribbean island, Grenada, Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and they all culminate in Trinidad Carnival. So I feel that we can foster some sort of Caribbean unity, raise our islands to have one voice in the globe. But this music is really uplifting to the spirit. Make people happy and make them dance.
What is your thought, what do you think when people say to you, oh yeah, he's like the Michael Jackson of the Caribbean?
I understand what they mean.
So what do they mean?
I'm blushing. I mean, the energy, the pioneering of song, the intense audiences, and I've been selling out Barclays Center, Madison Square Garden, UBS Arena. And, you know, I take some sort of level of theater to my shows and push the energy.
I was going to say, it's the comparison goes deeper than that, because it's about the artistry too.
Of course, and the innovation. For me, to bring it to the young people, to bring it to where it was, I always had to innovate. So I used collaborations with people like Shaggy and Beanie Man and Pitbull and Little John and Boyz II Men and Dougie Fresh. I always reach out to them to collaborate, to widen the scope.
Which I think is fantastic. do you ever, have you ever had people say, well, yeah, but if you pull in the hip hop or you know, some of these other artists, then it's not pure. Have you heard people say that?
You water it down, you're selling out. But that's what they love me for. I invite these people to Trinidad. I expose them to the Caribbean culture. We do songs specific to the carnivals that live during the carnivals in Labor Day Parade and Notting Hill Carnival in London and Caribbean in Toronto. So I bring them to the surface of our work instead of me trying to cross over. And I think now, especially at this time, I want to take a step back and make that album that I've never made. Try to make a push for a Grammy. Try to make a Grammy-worthy body of work that speaks internationally. We were growing our homegrown soca, bringing all our islands together. Now it's time to take it to the globe.
Yeah. So it sounds like to me that you, even from a little kid, you were somebody that was ambitious, and I mean that in the best terms, that you were challenging yourself. The next step, what's the next step? How do I grow? How do you set these goals for yourself?
Well, it was necessary. I started looking at solid gold. So I would watch Dionne Warwick and I would see Sting and the Police there, and I would see Guns N' Roses and all this technology. And I was like, well, how come we can't aspire to that? Let me try to be that one. And I kept finding myself reaching goals and having to set new ones. And then I would see young people following me. So when they weren't there in Calypso and they weren't there in Soca, now I look back and there's a whole line of them there. So I understand that you can keep pushing the envelope. Life is infinite. It's exponential also. It gets better if you keep putting in the work.
So you're inspiring these young people. Was there someone you looked to?
I looked at the best. I grew up locally looking at the Mighty Sparrow, who was the king of Calypso, Lord Kitchener, who was the Grand Master. But I was a big fan of Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Bob Marley, and all those, records were available in my home. So I was always trying to reach for the stars.
Yeah, and you believed even then that it was possible.
For sure. I mean, when you have the experience of seeing growth and seeing achievement, it's something that, I don't want to say you get addicted to, but you're almost compelled to keep going and keep growing. And life only gets better.
Yeah, I see.
I want young people to know that,
And do you feel like you're worthy of this title, King of Soca?
Well, I mean, it was given to me. I think it's not really something to feel great about.
Yeah.
It's something to understand the responsibility that comes with it. So I have to keep myself a certain way. I have to eat a certain way. I have to, not fall to the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I have young people who trying to come out of the Caribbean, come out of poverty, come out of third world, stereotypes, and really try to push. And I think I'm somebody who the young people look up to, and now I can see them, even me learning from them right now. So I feel like, it's a lived experience that you can keep, inspiring others.
So it's in these 4 decades, is there a favorite song that you enjoy performing the most?
My songs are like my children. I don't think you can have a favorite child. They have all these different moods, but this documentary is about a song called Like a Boss.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it was the biggest song across the world. Up to today, if I perform that song, everybody will go up in an uproar. Yeah. And I've had quite a few of those. That's one of my favorite. Fast Wine is one of my favorite, maybe my biggest streaming song. But I think, all of them have a different mood, and it's a different child. But you have to love them all the same.
Okay, Mama, you know you love me most. And I want to ask you, what are you hoping when folks see your documentary, Like a Boss, that they walk away with?
Sacrifice, understanding evolution, change is inevitable, but most importantly, I want to show them the dark times. I put a lot of dark times in there when I myself felt like giving up, and I want them to understand what you have to turn to in those times. People think that, it's all about having family or having friends, but sometimes you have to look really deep inside yourself and understand the value of life, and when you've been blessed with a talent or some sort of following, it means that there is some purpose that you must, aspire to. And I have climbed out of many of those dark places. I've been very vulnerable to show these things and express that, because everybody look at me and think, oh, he's just successful, and oh, he's just this. But they don't see those times. And I feel those times are more important for people to know, to push through, because again, it always gets better.
Yeah, it gets better.
Yeah.
I think young woman gets greater later. Gets better. So you are going to be in New York City August 8th and 9th, performing again, I should say, in Central Park. You looking forward to that?
I am so excited. The environment says it all, you know. Central Park is Central Park, New York. New York is central to so many people in the diaspora, but when we find ourselves in such a legendary space, there's an energy there that makes things happen. I did this many years ago, and since then I've sold out the Felt Forum Madison Square Garden twice in one night, sold out Barclays Center, but something about being amongst the trees in the park and bringing out everybody from all the nations. We have new Soca fans, not just from the Caribbean islands, but Spanish and French. And I want everybody to come out and see what Soca is like, see how Machel does it like a boss in New York City. I think this is going to be one of the biggest ones.
I think you're probably right. I'm going to send folks to your website, machelmontano.com.
Yes.
They can take a look at when you're going to be coming to their area.
Yep.
And we wish you continued success. You walked in here like a boss. I know there's some fans waiting to say hi to you outside. Thank you so much for sitting down with us this afternoon.
Yeah, check out the documentary. It's going to be on Amazon. It's going to be on all the different platforms. So look out for that. And, just check out Soca music. And
you're going to be exhausted watching the way this man works and performs. Come back anytime you want.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And we'll be right back. Thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/hereandnow or listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.